We'll call the Public Works and Planning Committee to order, and I'm gonna ask Mr. Mike Sparks, would he lead us in prayer?
Bow with me, please. Dear Father in heaven, we just come before you, Lord, with humble hearts, just asking for your wisdom and divine guidance upon this body here tonight, Lord. Lord, let our decisions always be in your favor, Lord Jesus, and be with our president, be with our local leaders, Lord, and be with this election, Lord, that we're facing here soon, and let others always treat their opponents and others in the way that you'd want them to treat them, Lord. And we just beg you for your continued blessing, and thank you for this great country and this great community that we call home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, first item, we need approval minutes for the last meeting.
Move to approve as mailed out.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item up will be the landfill report. Mr. Nolan.
Gentlemen, your packet's a little bit thick tonight, but it's not scary, Ron. What you actually have is 2 months worth of data since we didn't meet last month. And the main reason you have that much data is just to show you the difference in the trash. If you look at the back 2 pages, that's your landfill report for June and July. As you can see, the dollars are down, the tonnage is down, because the industry itself is down as a whole. And if you'll look at the second page of the convenience center report for June and July, you can see that is down as well. I talked to industry, recycling is down, trash is down all across the state. Really don't know why. It's just everything's slowed down just a little bit.
Are you expecting an upturn Friday?
After the election, well, I expect to get a lot of campaign signs. Hopefully they're recyclable.
If you see Mike, you pick him up.
Bring them back to you, okay. Our recycling is going rather well. We're hauling that ourselves now. Has been a struggle, but we've made it through that struggle, and things are going quite well with that. Monday the 9th, we start the single stream recycling program countywide in the school systems, city and county schools. There's 59 buildings that we'll attempt that with.
So all schools are going to participate with the county?
Whether they want to or not.
Okay.
Would you explain that one more time?
Okay, gladly.
Why we have the opportunity here?
Okay. What our intention is if you look at the county school system and the city school system collectively, it's 208,000 yards dumped per year. When we did our pilot program, we reduced the garbage by 39%. So if an individual school, pick any school you choose, an individual school has X quantity of trash coming out on a daily basis. So our intent is to separate that from recyclable trash. So the volume of trash or the volume of dump should remain the same. It's just going to be trying to capture the recycled materials out of it. Most of the classrooms should have close to 90% recycled materials out of them. Very little food waste, little pencil sharpener waste, something like that. And the cafeteria, the kitchen side of the cafeteria is where we got our biggest bang for the buck, catching the tin cans and all the packaging items. It's a little educational challenge to get the word out. Some of the principals that I've talked to thinks it's going to be harder work for them. We don't think that's going to be the case. But the big thing that I'd like for the public to realize is we're not adding a single container to any school. We're using the same containers that's already there. We're just going to label some of them recycle, some of them garbage. We do not want the public to help us recycle. That's going to increase the volume, and it's going to mess up our plan. We're not planning for a volume increase, we're just planning to recycle.
And the single stream,
The single stream commodities, it's cardboard, paper, aluminum cans, plastic bottles, all those things that get recycled except glass. And there's very little glass in the school system anyway. So all that will go into one container, and then once it gets to its destination, it'll be separated mechanically into the different items.
so the single streams, everything going into one container, so
Right.
we don't have to separate it, which is
A whole lot easier.
where we did the road trip, go down and look.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for explaining that again, because that's,
Well, thank you for asking.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to revert that.
Okay.
So it looks like Alliance closed up then?
Yes, sir. Alliance went out of business, and when they went out of business, we started hauling that ourselves. It was a little bit of a struggle logistics-wise to get the commodities where we needed to be with them. We were planning on taking that over anyway. It just happened almost a month before we were ready. So it's taken us almost 2 months to get everything in place. I had to add on another driver, which was already in the budget. We just hadn't filled that position, so we've done that. And it's going pretty well. Well, I'll tell you, everything this week is being dumped in Rutherford County. There's a new business opened in Laverne since we had all this commodity to take the paper, or take the glass and the plastic, and then the metal companies, the paper, everything right now that we're getting rid of is being disposed of right here within the county. Now, once the recycle, the single stream, that'll have to go to Davidson County. Nobody within the county does that.
Anybody got any more questions?
Going back to Alliance, what do you think hurt him over there? Just the cost of steel, aluminum dipping down, or just the economy taking such a downturn?
That's an expensive piece of property with an expensive building. So that's a whole lot of capital outlay there. And then economy turning at the same time, I think that's what hurt him. Good guy.
Charlie, the automobile operating.
Oh, absolutely. We, on our metal products, scrap metal, tin, and aluminum, on the south side of the county, we go to Clark, and on the north side of the county, we go to Express with it. Both those companies have been extremely good with us.
Making great strides in our recycling, just, we have to keep it up and get everybody else on board with it as quick as we can.
That's something that you gentlemen are gonna face for years to come with a 25-year growth plan. There's a lot of challenges in there.
Quick Lane looks good. You see where they widened it? Looks real good.
Got any more questions on the landfill or convenience report? If not, we'll take a motion to
Move
approve.
to approve the reports.
Second.
Motion second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mac. Building codes.
Chairman, Commissioners, you have your report on the table. July's Building Codes Department report. We issued 162 total permits. The fees taken in for those permits were $29,804 for building permits, $4,200 for plumbing permits. Gas permits was $445 for a total of $34,449. On the back page of that, we have our monthly totals compared to last year. We've issued 217 single-family dwellings this year for January till July, and last year, January to July, we issued 212, so we are up 5 single-family dwelling permits from last year at this time. On the next report is our property standard inspections. We performed 395 property maintenance inspections. On the next section, we performed 9 BZA and 40 sign inspections for a total of 49 in that category. Our new cases for July was 105. Our closed cases was 128. We had 1 warrant issued and 16 liens for the month of July placed on properties.
That mainly for grass, tall weeds?
The liens would have been grass cutting, yes.
Okay.
And we did have 2 demos that are in those numbers also.
Okay.
They were burned out houses that were sitting for a long time, so was able to take care of those. On the next page, we have our development tax collections. Building Codes Department took in $78,750. Planning Department took in $1,500 for a total of $80,250. A breakdown of where those fees were generated, with Rutherford County being the highest development area for July. And we did a adjustment of $750 on one of those planning lots evidently. So we're down to total collection for the first month of our budget year on our development tax, $79,500. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
I got a question back on the report on the junkyard. You say you inspected 7, are they the same 7, are they new junkyards, or?
I don't have that information with me, Mr. McAdoo. I can find out. You know, I don't know if they were as continuous or all new cases. More than likely, 1 or 2 of them was probably continuous. But I'll be glad to check the numbers on where they came from, and what areas they're in, if they're continuous or not. for you.
Drop it in my box.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that.
Just clarification, those are illegal junkyards, right? Well, not-
Let me go back
Or
to
some
the
of them
report.
legal and just,
The inspections that we perform are on, once we go out and consider it a new case, then it would come up for a reinspection under those numbers. So, yeah, it would be a, what is considered a junkyard to us. What's considered a junkyard is over 1 vehicle in a subdivision, or over 3 vehicles that are not in a subdivision.
that's what I'm saying, as far as
So that-
clarification, they've never been authorized to be a junkyard.
Exactly, that's
So
what,
somebody's
that's the
accumulated
definition
junk
of a
cars.
junkyard is three or more out in the county and 1 in a subdivision.
Can you, the next month, can you give us, the ones that's the oldest on here? Where we at on them, why we ain't, where we proceeding? if we're
On
going-
the junkyards?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And where they are.
Yeah, where they
Be
are
glad.
and where we at, whether we're going through court to get them done or where we stand.
Be glad to, yeah.
Any other questions on the report? Motion second. All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, planning.
Good evening. I've already placed the subdivision inventory in front of you. You'll see we've actually had a couple of new preliminary plats renewed last month. That's all the activity there. We do have 2 rezoning cases going before the board next Thursday. I'll just explain them briefly, and if you have any questions, just let me know. The first is for Miss Kelly Adcock. The property is located at 1587 Compton Road, which is near the intersection of Las Casas Pike. She's looking to rezone 2.19 acres of property from a larger tract. It is currently zoned R15 with proposed rezoning to services for a landscaping business. She does currently store trees and shrubs on the property. She also sells some trees and shrubs from there and stores her work vehicles there as well. The existing house on the property is vacant, and there's no plans to use it in the future. However, she does keep a camper trailer on site in order to get out of the weather when she's on the site. The surrounding area is predominantly zoned R15. However, there are many conditional use permits granted for things like used tractor sales, real estate office, farm equipment, machinery sales, electric substation, and of course it's right across the road from the convenience market. The Planning Commission did review this application at its June meeting and did recommend for approval, a vote of 10-4-0 against. Do you have any questions about this particular application?
Is the landscaping business not one of those used by right?
It's not, no. We don't have any uses by right in our commercial zones.
So it's in a commercial.
It's currently R15, part of it would be rezoning to commercial.
Nurseries aren't used by right
No,
for
not this time.
agriculture.
No, they're actually not even in an agricultural zone. I mean, I suppose if you were just doing, if you were growing, if you were like just growing trees to sell as an agricultural product, then that would be used by right. But actually, bringing in trees from off-site and selling to the public, that's considered a retail nursery, not used by right.
So they can't do both and qualify under the one.
Don't believe so. You can be a wholesale nursery. You can sell to vendors and qualify as the agricultural definition, but not a retail to the general public. And she doesn't grow trees on the property. She brings them in from off-site.
What about, you're talking about use by right, what about the school? If someone wanted to do a private school or something?
That would also require, in most cases, a conditional use permit as well.
Okay.
Okay, next application was for John McFarland. His property is located at 4704 Las Casas Pike. He's proposing to rezone 1.66 acres of a much larger tract. It's currently zoned R15 with a proposed rezoning to retail wholesale trade. There is actually an existing garden center next door, and he's proposing to build a new commercial building with the outside appearance of a house that may be used as the gift shop for the garden center, and or it could be used separately as a pharmacy, walk-in clinic, or an office. So the 3 acres to the east of the property where the garden center is was rezoned to retail wholesale trade in 1993. So it's been there for a little while. The surrounding remaining area is zoned R15. Once again, the Planning Commission reviewed this application in June as well, and it was approved, recommended for approval 10-4-0 against. Any questions on this one? No? Okay. Well, those are the two rezoning cases going for the board next week.
Anybody, is that all you got?
Mhm.
Anybody got any questions on any, the reports you give or anything?
I have something on Rockville Meadows,
Okay.
and you may not know off the top of your head, I'm sure. There's a bond that was put up for them, and I believe it's up in August of this year.
Mhm.
When would that come up for renewal, or what's the process on that, if you know?
Well, anytime there's a bond renewal, they have to submit an application to our office to go before our planning commission, and we would usually like to see that renewed before it expires. I'm not sure if that one has come in yet. The county engineer would know more on that topic than I would, but there is a process for going back before our planning commission.
And if it just goes out, then do we have to cash it before then, or what's the case on that?
I suspect the engineering department would call the bond before it expired. We have actually had to call our first bond
Yeah,
just recently, so we would do that.
Okay.
What flags that situation so you know it's coming up to expire?
We have, one of our employees keeps a fairly close eye on our bonds. He's the one that goes out and inspects the roads and keeps an eye on how the construction work is going in the subdivision. So I suspect he keeps tabs on when they're coming up for expiration, and we'll give them calls to let them know they need to renew, or that we will call it.
Most developers pretty good to work with.
Yeah,
Are they?
yeah.
That's the first one y'all called, you say?
It is the first one we've called, I think ever that I'm aware of.
We call those bonds that we had to finish the work,
Yes, sir.
those 2 projects.
A lot of them having a tough time out there, you know?
Yeah, and we have seen a lot of plat and bond extensions in the last year due to the economy.
Yeah.
That all you got?
Yes.
Anybody got any other questions on reports? Not, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Home grant policy and procedures.
We have it.
County Mayor.
I don't know, Some of you remember that we've had this home grant even previous to me coming here, and this is the first time that we've had this again since I've been the mayor. So we have received a grant of $300,000 to be used for probably about 6 projects to help rehab and renovate housing for indigent people, elderly people. So this is the first process. Approval has already been given, for us to make this application for a grant. We've been awarded the grant. I have to take 3 documents back through the process to get final approval. In other words, we're going to have to approve what these home program policies and procedures, these are standard procedures that THDA, Tennessee Housing Development Authority, puts out. Then we'll have to agree to enter into a contract with Greater Nashville Regional Council to actually administer the construction of these projects. It's a fairly detailed process, one of which we've been through before, but this is what we're asking, and I don't know, Becky, how much of this you've even got in your hand yet.
I have a copy of
Of the policies and procedures.
Mhm.
And we just got the contract that we'll need to execute with GNRC as well for the administration. So I don't know, quite truthfully, how much of this you guys have to see. It has to go from here to budget. It's also on the budget agenda. And I really need you to authorize the continued execution of these documents with respect to this home grant that we've received from the Tennessee Housing and Development Agency.
You reviewed all these?
Yes, sir. It's quite a bit of reading here, but I have, yes. And Faye Elam, who you well know, she's been the primary person that worked through this previous one that we've had. So she's well informed about this as well, and we've all, this is standard practice.
We all reviewed them and agree with them. We just need to
Yes, sir.
approve the language on to move them
You
on.
just need to allow us to adopt the home program policies and procedures for this grant that we received and enter into a contract with the Greater Nashville Regional Council for the administration and management services as we go forward with helping these individuals repair and rehab some of their homes.
So these are for people who are, say, indigent?
Yeah.
Or
They're low income.
low income and their houses
Their houses are
substandard?
needing substantial
Okay.
enhancements and improvements.
But this isn't synonymous with Mid-Cumberland with what they do?
No. This is more than that. And we'll have to have public hearings about all of this. As we put this process in place, we'll have to take applications. It's quite a tedious process, but it really does some great work for some people, homes that really need some major improvements.
There's matching grants.
No matching grant. It's
How do people know about how to apply for this?
Well, we're going to be putting a lot of public notice out there. That's required, that we have public hearings, public notice, and make everyone aware of it. So it's a very structured process that the Tennessee Housing Development Authority has put in place for us to have to follow all of these rules. And it will take a while really to get all the information out there and for the people to be notified so that they can respond and we can find out exactly who out there really wants this and needs this.
Any more questions, John? Not, I need a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is the Highway Department, the Highway Board approved one easement that you've got a copy of that in front of you, in Fleming's Farm. It's road board Monday morning, so need to approve that and move it on to the full commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Where is Fleming Farm?
Fleming's Farms is,
It's out 231.
Yeah, 231.
Turn right before you get to Christiana.
yeah. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Anybody got any other business?
I guess since we've got such a crowd and been passed out these notes, I just don't know if there's anything that we ought to discuss on those issues, since we are the planning committee. If there's, I'll just throw this out there, I'll make a motion that if they have somebody that wants to speak for 2 or 3 minutes and be brief, since they're all here, to let them speak, so.
A spokesman.
One spokesman, if they want
I'll
to
second.
give 3 minutes or so to talk about anything for what to do, then.
When we open this up, it'll be strictly on, we'll be dealing strictly with the rules and regulations of planning. We can't get off into.
It's got to be with what this committee
Correct.
has to do with the rules and regulations of the planning was the only thing.
You got a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you got someone that wants to speak?
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Coker. I live in Rutherford County in the Rockville area, and I have a sheet of paper I'd like to pass out before the board meeting.
All right.
I think I have enough copies. I'm gonna let you-
Is this
Thank you.
pertaining to what we already have? Because the motion was to discuss what we already have.
I think this is on the same subject, yes, sir.
The motion was to discuss what we already have.
Yeah, I was just talking about what was already passed out, so.
Well, this is a supplement or an addendum if you'd like to look at it.
Well,
It's on the same issue.
I just want to let one person get up here and speak what we've already been passed out, so I don't,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't mean any disrespect, it's just that's what the motion was.
That's fine.
This is what you passed out a while ago.
Yes, sir. We had some basic concerns concerning, I understand about the Public Works Committee and that you discuss a lot involving planning and overall everything involving the community. So what we want to do is just give up a couple of about four questions that we were concerned about. And I have some pictures, if I could just pass them down for each of you to look at. We have 4 questions that we basically are concerned about. First question was, did Mr. Demasi, the planning director, have legal or constitutional right to grant permission for a body to be buried on the property of Beals Road? And if so, what gave Ms. Emsley the authority to grant this conditional permit, since it's her name which appears on the permit? Second question was, why the public wasn't informed about potential possible risks to the environment, such as water supply, soil contamination, and notice. Third was, county guidelines call for letters to be sent notifying local residents of upcoming events at this site. No resident received this letter. We have people here who live in that area, kitty corner to this property within the confines of what the county guidelines are as far as passing out notices, and they never received a letter or any kind of notice. And for people that are going to be drinking the water and live off this land, of course, it's a major concern. And the final question we had was about sinkholes. If you look at these pictures, these pictures were taken just recently, Saturday, and it shows just after just a very, very brief rainstorm, just how quickly that area became immersed in water and just a terrible situation for that community. And the question was, what about sinkholes? I've noticed this ground sits below street level. With this flood, and because the bodies are buried unvaulted and with no coffin, should not some type of environmental study be done to ensure these bodies won't wash away or become unearthed? Because as I say, if you look at these pictures, and I believe this gentleman here also has some pictures, if you'd like to share with them, show just how quickly that area can become in bad condition. And this
Now, is this where the body's buried? Is where the water's actually standing?
right close to it. But some of the pictures are taken from different angles. Let me show you.
Beals Road.
The person that took the picture is the neighbor to Beals Road. He actually
The
lives.
graveyard's lower behind.
But I don't want to discuss a piece of property that's flooding
No,
if it's not
this is-
the one that,
This is on Beals Road.
It's the piece of property, sir, that they own, yes.
Yes. And here's more pictures.
so this is where the body's buried,
Yes.
where the water is.
It's right, yeah. It's close to it.
You've got written down here
bodies plural? Is it
Because
one body or?
there's one body that's buried there at this
Right.
time, we know, with no coffin, no vault. But they've also said, as Mr. Tomasi has said in the paper, that they're going to resubmit it. And I would think that it would be prudent to address the issues now before they go forward to ensure that no public health risk exists, because there's been several studies done internationally which draw certain concerns from this. Both the CDC, the Pan American Health Organization, have addressed this type of concern.
No, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this not a retention pond? Because there's a pipe here, and it looks like it's dug out. So that's supposed to hold water.
Towards the front of the property next to Village Road.
But isn't this a detention pond? They're supposed to hold water.
No,
No,
we
there's
see
no-
the waters where they enter, where the people have been doing the bush hogging on the property, go onto their property from Village Road. That's where you see the big lake-looking area.
No detention ponds on this property. This property was a farm.
So this is not a drain that
No.
that looks like a
When the
drain.
Baptist Church developed the corner lot adjacent to the property that is owned by the Islamic Center, they created a detention pond at that location,
On their property,
on their property, yes, sir.
not on this.
That is correct.
Well,
So it's on the,
And if you'll look at the larger pictures, you will see where the sign for the Islamic Center is. It's standing in a pool of water.
right, Baptist church property.
so I didn't get my question answered. Is that a picture of a detention pond? Because it sure looks like one to me.
There's
It's
some
got a
drains
pipe.
back there probably in the background from the Baptist Church property.
Okay.
Joe Frank can answer that for you.
That water stands there on that corner all the time. I work with the highway department. A lot of times that water gets full there, it'll come over the road there.
So that is a drain though, right? From the road maybe?
No, it's just
Not even a
natural
drain.
where the water, when the water gets full, there's nowhere for it to go out there.
I believe the drain that you are seeing is a drain that goes from the Baptist Church parking lot into a detention pond that is adjacent to where you pull off of Bills Road onto the Islamic Center property.
So that's a separate piece of property?
Yes, sir.
not the-
That's
Thank you,
correct.
thank you. I didn't think I was crazy. I've seen detention ponds before, and that's a detention pond.
Does the detention pond go all the way over onto the Islamic Center though?
No.
That's what I was trying to
Okay.
find out.
No,
Because that's where the sign stands. If you'll look where you can see the
that's,
rods.
where
and
you
can
saying the
see
sign?
The fluid is. the
where you
line.
saying the sign right there is just a natural pond. When water gets out there and gets so high, all it fills in. In fact, if you go on down Vale Road sometime, it'll get plumb full and cross the road. It
Yes,
gets
sir.
deep.
And there are signs that the traffic department has
We have to put-
posted there
That's
for
right.
for high water.
Right. That was sort of my point. We're talking about two different pieces of property.
Well, sir, we know about that property because that's been in my husband's family.
Yes,
It was in
ma'am.
my husband's family for nearly 100 years.
Right.
And water does stand there, but it's usually after a huge rain. It's
Right.
not stood like that over a brief rain like
Yeah.
that was there. It took a lot of water in the past, a lot of rainwater in order for that much water to stand. We only had a brief rain that day, and you can see how much is there. Part of that may be due to the retention pond, but if it's due to the retention pond, it's not constructed properly because it's going on over into the other property. Water is running off from somewhere.
Now, I was just wanting to make sure that I wasn't confused. I wanted to make sure what piece of property we're talking about.
Okay. Do
Also,
you
you add
understand?
52 more thousand feet, gonna be a lot of water going both ways, to the cemetery and to the road. Because our farm's done. When the pond gets full in the cemetery, it goes to Brave Road.
I'm sorry, sir.
You made all your points, that's what-
Okay. Were these questions addressed?
These are questions that I would like you to be addressed.
Well, my question is, were they addressed at the planning department?
We haven't been able to get any answers to any of these issues.
Did you present these to the planning?
We presented, actually, some of those issues have been presented, whether it's verbally or
I'm talking about, did you present these to
The way
Mr.
it's
DeMasi?
as it is,
He's
no.
the department head.
No.
Well,
You gotta know about a meeting first.
no, my question was, were these presented to Mr. DeMasi? That's his department.
No, no.
And I feel
But
like
we
if
have-
they were
we have-
presented to
we have
Mr. DeMasi and then he didn't give you satisfactory answers, then it should come before us.
But I did ask some of these questions of Mr. Tomasi, yes, I have. And some of these questions have been questions that have been asked by the newspapers, TV. These are questions that aren't being answered. And this is why we come here today, is because we'd like to get somebody to look at the issue before it goes forward. And this being the public works, this is, you know, I mean, with all due respect, but I figured you were the ones that address these type issues, and we wanted to get some clarity as to ensure we're going in the right direction, and maybe these are things that you all could discuss.
Mr. Chairman, could you forward this to Mr. DeMasi?
Well, if we're gonna forward it to Mr. DeMasi, I think this whole committee needs to forward it back to planning for them to look at this area right here. It's been brought forward about the flooding and all. They brought it before this committee, they asking this committee, they ain't asking one person. So if you want these photographs and all the information they brought up here to send back for the planning director to look at and review, that's what you need to do. And I mean, I won't say but this, myself, and that's all I'll say by working with the road department, but, and being a commissioner that joins that district, I wasn't even notified at the meeting or nothing. If it had, I could have been there. Because we see the water get plumb over the road all the time, you can't even get through. It's been 4 foot deep down through it. So if you want to send it back to planning for them to look into this part, it's what you need to do.
Did this go through BZA as far as the cemetery, or does it have to?
He's not only talking about the.
Seems like there's two issues.
He's talking about, there's two issues. He's talking about the body that's buried there, and then you get so much water that comes in and you have flooding that covers the grave and health issue. And the other issue he's got, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but the gentleman here, I know him personally, and go to church with him, they farmed it, and his granddaddy, the water gets over the whole thing sometime down through it, the road and all, so they asking the planning to go back and look at these issues here, and I think it's valid myself.
So do you need a motion to that effect?
That's what I think. Yeah, I'm asking the rest of the committee. That's what I think as chairman.
Well, if we have someone here, Mr. Merrill and Ms. Inslee, if either one of you can answer any of these or give us any insight to these, I would appreciate it. Now, I know it's kind of blindsiding you, and I don't mean to do that, but we're kind of blindsided.
Me personally, I think that would be, we wouldn't get to where we need to be. You got an engineer and 3 engineers up there, and I think them type of people need to be looking at it.
I'm not saying it shouldn't go forward, I'm just saying the discussion's not done here today yet.
Well,
If we have someone here that can give any insight.
you got anybody can give any insight to step up to the
That's
table?
what I'm asking.
Well, we can give a bit of insight, but I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, the first question here addresses a legal or constitutional issue, and I don't think I'm in a position to answer those questions. I'm not an attorney.
Yes, sir.
And I think this needs to be thoroughly and carefully reviewed by our legal.
I would recommend that you
And that's
refer it
what-
to the
that's what we
council,
will. Sir?
to our legal counsel, to our county attorney.
Yes, on several
For
issues.
review.
So I'm not going to speak to any of those issues because I think it'd be inappropriate for me to say something that may be wrong.
Right.
So,
Well, I think that would
regardless
be,
of what you do, we're going to, we've already done some of this homework, but we will do even more and provide a response.
I just think we ought to have some answers to these questions in that form without putting anybody on the spot to off the hip answer these things like Commissioner Daniels was saying. So I'd like to see this forward on to the appropriate county attorney or the engineers. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm thinking on this, and get some answers back for these questions here.
Let them take that to planning commission.
And let them take that, well, they bring it back to our committee or because since, I mean, I believe it's our task is to kind of investigate and take care of problems when the citizens don't, when they feel like they can't get the answers. So that would be kind of what I'd like to see us do.
Or would they not take the planning commission and then the planning commission bring it to us?
Well, I mean,
with their recommendations on, or if it's messed up, how they're gonna straighten it out, or if legally they can straighten it out, or if legally it's not messed up. Because we don't know.
well, we just need some answers.
Right,
I mean,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
reported back to this committee, so.
I think this is one of those situations where we really would be well advised to take the time to do it right.
Right.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
That means get the information that we don't have, and then shake it up and discuss it, decide where it needs to go.
I think what we're really asking for is a discovery, though, through the planning commission. I think that'd be the appropriate word. To discover.
The way I see it, you're gonna have to go back to the planning.
That's what
That's
I
where
said,
the
that's
issues
what
is,
I
and, well, wait just a minute, Mr. Jones. That's where the engineers work for the planning, and the planning director, and they got the lawyers up there too. This has been raised, that's the reason it needs to go back for school discussion to, they need to get some answers on the questions that's been raised, and I think that's what y'all are saying. We're all saying the same thing, just a different way, I think.
Right.
All I'm asking is, do we need a formal
Yeah.
motion? Like,
Well, before we get into that, I'll go back, to me, go back to the original, is that religious facilities don't have to, because they're given by right, like the planner was mentioning earlier, but we had a little mom and pop business that wasn't given by right, and look at the impact that this is gonna have. I mean, obviously, you've got 20-something people in here that are concerned, and there's gonna be a whole lot more than that didn't come to this meeting. I'm sure this drainage is gonna be, the engineers would take care of that. Huddleston, I guess, is doing the engineering with that. It's a dangerous road, there's no doubt. I understand y'all's concerns, and that's, a lot of times the county commission's hands are tied the way it's, I know the commission's got a lot of criticism, but their hands were tied, and they never come before the county commission. And y'all's voice never had an opportunity to be heard. The way that's just the law, the way the law's set up. Believe me, that this commission, sometimes I think the voices are heard too much. I've seen little mom and pop businesses get shut down or never had an opportunity to get started because the commissioner had 3 phone calls against it. And the commissioner, let's face it, he may be worried about votes. He may not be worried about that person's livelihood there.
Let's just stay on
But
this issue.
I'm on this issue. When it goes back to religious facilities.
Point of order, I had to.
And that's what it is. That's what it
I had the
is.
floor first before I was interrupted.
In the process.
I'm just giving a
I
discussion.
had the floor first before I was interrupted.
I didn't know you was interrupted. I apologize.
Go ahead, Mac.
I was in the process of making a motion, and the form of my motion is that we forward this back to planning commission and address these questions that were presented to us tonight, and the answers be presented to us at the next committee meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Now, has anybody got any questions on this motion? That's all we're gonna ask questions on, not gonna get out on everything else.
When you say
Questions on this
planning
motion?
commission,
That includes our legal, Mr. DeMarcy, health department, because we do have some health department issues in here.
Okay.
That includes everything that was brought up on this sheet.
okay. I just want to make sure it goes through all of the appropriate things.
Planning commission due diligence.
Right.
Which is involving everyone.
That's right.
Okay.
I think Becky as secretary will have everything here.
Did that get a second?
Yeah.
We're gonna let her read it back before you go.
Okay.
Forward the 4 questions presented to the Planning Commission with a request to look into the drainage issue on site. Also forward to the County Attorney's Office, engineers, and the Health Department to investigate with a report back at the next meeting.
That's your motion, Mac.
That's my motion.
Report back
With
to
Mr. DeMoss being present at our next meeting.
That's for them to report back to our next meeting. Now, they may not
We
necessarily.
can't take no questions from audience, hon. We done had a motion and a second and all that.
But I understood the motion to include all 4 of these questions.
It did.
Yeah,
That's what it is. He just.
Okay, well,
Back.
we just said something a minute ago that made me have a little doubt, but fine. As long as we all understand, then fine, let's go.
You know, the planning commission will have a meeting on this and come to a conclusion and bring that back to us, correct?
That's my understanding. That's what the
Okay.
that's what your motion is,
That's
right?
And let this be a part of our minutes, these 4 questions. You know, when you send out our
The minute.
minute notes, let this. these
So
are the
they're
questions.
always an attachment.
Okay, attach them.
Now,
Do we need to address notification to not have the same fiasco we had before?
Well,
Because
2 of these were notification questions.
Right, but I don't want the same thing to happen that we've been the county has been accused of. I don't want the same thing happening for this meeting that they're gonna have.
from what my understanding as chairman is what we're asking, is what she's asked right here. We're expecting them to have the answers to these questions and bring them back to this committee. And they're gonna present what we've asked them to do here, and we'll listen to that and go from there.
I guess my question is how will the planning commission
Well,
handle their notifications
You-
for
you-
their meeting?
All right, wait just a minute. We just got through saying it'd come back to this committee. This committee meets every month at the same time.
I understand that.
So they sitting here right now, and the paper will be telling you too. Public Works will be meeting the first Tuesday in the month, and that's when we expect to have it back.
Well, I understand that. We've had that process all along, but it didn't happen that way.
I understand that.
We're just answering questions. What I'm trying to do is make sure it does happen right. Somebody needs to be told how it needs to be done, because evidently somebody doesn't know how to do it.
Well,
Well, we will make the notice, and it will be a legal notice. And the notice that we did make has been determined to be a legal notice.
And just for clarification, that doesn't mean notifying someone kitty-cornered or across the street or whatever.
Whatever is required, we will do it.
Call for the question.
question has been called for. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other business?
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, need a second. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Supposed to, not approve, we're supposed to be doing that business.